Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the SLDC Board of Directors meeting, our regular scheduled meeting being held on March 24th, 2024. I would like to call the meeting to order at 8:01 a.m. So Lise, can you please call the roll?
Director Gilbert.
Here.
Director McBride.
Here.
Director Sean Spencer.
Present.
Alderwoman Kara Spencer.
Present.
And Chairman Neal, Chairman Richardson.
Present.
Sorry. And Director Reed.
Here.
With that, we have a quorum. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the February 14, 2024 regular scheduled board meeting that was held via Zoom. Do I have any questions or comments about the minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from February 14th?
So move, Gilbert.
Do I have a second?
Second. Director Reed.
For the motion and the second, I would like to have a roll call vote, please.
Alderwoman Kara Spencer.
Aye.
Director Gilbert.
Aye.
Director McBride.
Aye.
Director Sean Spencer.
Aye.
Director Reed.
Aye.
And Chair Richardson.
Aye. With all ayes, the motion passes to approve the minutes from February 14th, 2024, our regular scheduled board meeting. I think we should also approve the minutes from our March 5th, 2024 special board meeting that was held this month as well to handle a few items of important business. Do I have a motion the previous role to approve the minutes from March 5th?
Chairman Richardson, I wasn't available for that meeting, so I'd have to abstain.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from March 5th?
So move, Gilbert.
Have a second?
Second, McBride.
Roll call vote, please.
Alderwoman Kara Spencer. Director Gilbert.
Aye.
Director McBride.
Aye.
Director Sean Spencer.
Abstain.
Director Reed.
Aye.
And Chair Richardson.
Aye. Alderwoman Kara Spencer, did you have a vote on this?
I'm an aye. Sorry, wait for a second. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you so much. So we'll, with our ayes, with our voting aye, the motion passes to approve the minutes from our March the 5th, 2024 special board meeting. First resolution today is resolution number 24 SLDC 932, authorizing the contract extension for customer relationship management software and consulting services with Summit Technologies. Pass it over to our Senior Vice President of Strategic Growth, Mr. Lance Knuckles, for the presentation.
As always, it's a pleasure to be in front of you. Is it possible, Director Richardson, to have the resolution kind of on the side? I'm unable to track it down this morning, but I can, in doing so, I can speak to, it is an honor again to be in front of you. As you all know, we have been moving forward to modernize SLDC, to be able to activate the work of our organization and move forward. This resolution is for the approval and support to extend the contract with Summit Technologies, who I have some of those colleagues from Summit Technologies on with me today, who will provide a brief presentation for you all to understand exactly the great progress we're making in modernizing our organization to ensure that we're not only able to track the activities of the Economic Justice Action Plan, but to also integrate the work between our agency and other city departments that are moving towards economic justice through strategies and activations across the city of St. Louis and departments. And so this contract is for an extension to secure $150,000 extension would allow us to complete the efforts that we have set in front of us. The body of work would allow us to move forward. Thank you so very much. The body of work would allow us to move forward and execute a deliverable product for the end of April, which would put us in a position to ensure that we're able to communicate all the activity of the Economic Justice Action Plan to date by the end of April of 2024. And so there's background here that I think is important, that this is a relationship that Mr. Stephen Davis, one of our vice presidents, has been facilitating and managing. And through his partnership with Summit Technologies has been able to get us to a point where we're able to activate this work. Stephen and I now collaborate to move this work forward in a leadership partnership approach that allows us to not only identify how we support different departments in our organization, but how we might actively use the resource and capacity of consultants in an effective and efficient way to drive the mission of SLDC. And so this resolution is, again, seeking your support to move that work forward. We have had some discussions about this work in the past, but I would really pause and welcome any conversations from the board of directors, as well as, in given the opportunity, will allow my colleagues from Summit Technologies, I believe Josh Hines is the presenter, and he will be able to just present to you all who they are, the work they've done so far, and where we're going as an organization. Because later in the presentation today, you'll hear about product launches, and Summit Technologies, a critical part of our ability to launch those products as well. So I'll yield the floor, Mr. Richardson, to any, or Director Richardson, any questions from you and your board.
Yeah,
We can have Summit Technologies provide a brief overview of their work.
let's start with the presentation first, Lance, and then we'll open it up for questions from the board.
So do we have sharing powers for Josh?
Yes.
Thank you.
Move forward, Josh. Thank you. Josh, are you there, sir?
You might be on mute, Josh.
Sorry about that. So yeah, my agenda for this morning is going to be to go over, who are we at Summit Technologies? Who am I? What have we done so far with St. Louis? And also, what are we working on now? So who are we at Summit Technologies? We've been working in the Salesforce space since 2016 with over 750 completed projects with over 230 customers. We maintain a 5-star rating on the App Exchange with Salesforce, and we are a sole, Salesforce shop in what we are doing. We average 6 certifications with each of our consultants, and we are committed to low code or no code solutions to mitigate technical debt. These are some of the states that we've worked in and some of the projects that we've worked on for other areas. What I'm going to go into now is who am I? So my name is Josh Hines. I've been working in the Salesforce ecosystem for 10 years. I'm 8-time Salesforce certified. I'm a former Dreamforce and Buckeye Dreaming speaker. And I'm a senior consultant at Summit Technologies who's been here approximately 5 years. So what have we done so far with St. Louis? We've set up a developer portal that allows developers to submit applications, monitor those applications through the process, as well as review their projects. I've included some screenshots for this board for them to kind of review those items as well from a screenshot method. They can come in, submit a new application. This is a couple of screenshots from those individual applications that they can go through in the process. This is live as of today. They can see, the projects that they have submitted an application on and restart it and join it from that moment. They can also look at the projects in process and review those as to where it is without having to reach necessarily out to somebody internally. They're able to go in to this portal and review where they are in those projects that they've, gotten through the approval process. So we have also assisted with setting up the project questionnaires for Scale Up, Mobilize, and Home STLs. There is the press kit linked here in the presentation as well that I'll share over after this, as well as links to the questionnaires. But to make it easy for the board, I've brought in screenshots of those questionnaires. Each of those questionnaires will allow for them to submit for those loans to start the process, and those are going straight into St. Louis's Salesforce organization now, so that individuals can review them as necessary for each of those pieces. So let me get on to, what we're working on now for the team. So as this is, a work in progress in the system, but below is an example of how we're going to be tracking those pillar strategies and objectives and activations through the process. So here is just a sample pillar with a couple strategies connected to it. As you click into the strategy or the strategy from the pillar, it will pull up into a new window and you can then see the strategy. You can also quickly go back to the pillar by clicking back on this tab and going back up to it. But then underneath that, you have a RASCI that tracks, who the project team is, who the leadership team is, and kind of their responsibilities as well to it. And you also have objectives further on down, and we continue this methodology through that pipeline to go down each step as we kind of go. You can see same method as before. If you click on the RASCI, you can pull up, who that is and what their responsibility is to this team as we go through it. And again, this is a work in progress as we're going through. Same with objective. You can click on the individual objective from the pillar strategy page and open that up directly. And that'll continue that methodology as we go down. You can see we're also starting to build out, the additional outcomes, activations, and narrative updates that would connect directly up to this objective. So thank you for your time, and I'll turn it back over to Lance.
So Lance, I again appreciate the presentation, and Mr. Haas, thank you for being present in the discussion today. From the board perspective, through the Economic Justice Action Plan, also through the unprecedented set of resources that SLDC has received in the form of ARPA, it's very important that we have the appropriate software to track and monitor progress towards our stated goals and objectives. As we laid out the Economic Justice Action Plan, it was important for the community, the public to understand, and even our public officials to understand that this wasn't a plan that was going to sit on the shelf. This was a plan that we were going to activate starting day one and execute on. And what the Economic Justice Tracker itself allows us to do is to be able to fully track and measure the progress. Also having the, as Josh called it, the RASCI, those who are responsible, accountable, supported, consulted, and informed throughout the process, that internally we have accountability measures and have the appropriate teams assigned to execute that work. And so it's important for us not to just say we're committed to it, but we've applied resources to it. And then we have a process for holding people accountable and then being able to communicate that progress to the public so they can see that, we are being good stewards of the funds, as well as raising additional funds and resources from philanthropic and corporate partners as we seek to grow SLDC. So it's important piece of the puzzle as we are talking about strategic growth. And that's why Lance and Steve have been working together through our strategic growth and strategic partnership team to ensure that we're moving the needle forward and moving SLDC digital first. So with that, I'll open it up to questions from any of the directors. I would pass it over to Director Gilbert. I see your hand first.
Thank you. I'm just a little bit confused with regard to what we're approving here. I know have we already approved 150? The contracts, one contract is signed. Is that related to what we approved previously? There's another contract attached that hasn't been signed that's for 75, but we're being asked to approve 50. Make the numbers make some sense.
Yes, ma'am. Director Gilbert, what you have in front of you in the packet, as we move this contract forward, there was an original contract that provided the provision for a scope of work to be identified as an agreement to move forward. We have two scopes of work that define the project of the work in totality. So the $150,000 request, Director Gilbert, is inclusive of both phase 1 and phase 2. Within the board packet, there is an assigned scope of work to ensure that Summit Technologies could continue to do the work moving forward in support of moving our efforts into the future and meeting our objective by the end of April. And so there are 2 scopes of work that represent the total ask of $150,000. This has been an extension in the past to move work forward. And so we've done what I'm going to call a step back and level setting on the large level of expectation of technology needs in this partnership with Summit. And so in doing so, we've identified a total need of approximately 600 hours to be able to execute the standing up and moving forward of this framework. That would also include the training and education of staff who need to use this platform to move it forward. And so some of the numbers represent the historical context of this working relationship, Director Gilbert, where we have had a contract extension to be able to keep moving the work forward on, excuse me, the developer portal. And so this body of work is really the total economic justice action plan framework and all that is what's needed for SLDC to monitor and report on our efforts and ensuring that we meet the goals and objectives of the economic justice action plan and partner with our city department partners to communicate those completed messages overall into the community.
Okay, but we've already authorized 150 and this is an additional 50. Is that what I'm seeing?
No, ma'am, you have not authorized 150. In this moment in time, we're asking for the authorization and support to move forward 150, which would bring us to what we believe is the totality of resources required to fully stand up and execute this effort.
You're saying this is the last 50 of 150? I'm still confused with the numbers.
So I'm not saying it's the last 50, Director Gilbert. This is the last 150. There's a reference to not to exceed $50,000 because historically, this body had made decisions, and we're asking you all to vacate a notion of moving in $50,000 increments to approve $150,000 allocation to support this effort, so we don't have to continue to come back to the board on an ongoing basis, and also would allow Summit Technologies the appropriate threshold and runway to execute the work in totality.
Okay, so we're looking at a total of 150,000 for this 600-hour project.
Yes, ma'am, that is absolutely correct. And I appreciate the diligence in ensuring that we have clarity on what is in front of the board today.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Director Richardson. I was also confused about some of that. So the front end of the contract says, or at least in the description here, it indicates that as part of this, we are also removing the cap on, I'm sorry, I was kind of scrolling back through the contract here, that we are also waiving the monetary cap for sole source procurement. Can you walk us through that, Neil? What is that aspect of this contract? What are we procuring here? And what does the cap pertain to? The 150,000 or?
Director, do you want me to say?
Yeah, go ahead. I know you've been talking with the Summit and legal team about this. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Director Spencer, as we talk about removing the cap, that is from a sole source perspective, securing Summit Technologies based upon the skill sets and the services required for SLDC, use the sole source procurement protocol within SLDC's protocols and guidelines to procure Summit Technologies to do this work for us. And so that is the original procurement process that was secured. And so in keeping and honoring of that procurement protocol, we actually are bringing forward the request to forego or extend the cap on the sole source request, which is within our contracting process, that typically sole sourcing is done at a $50,000 threshold. And in this moment in time, based upon the subject matter expertise, the exuberant number of hours that Summit Technology has built into this partnership, we felt it prudent for us to bring forward this extension and seek the support of the board to just extend that cap of $50,000 to be able to procure, or more importantly, not procure, to extend the existing contractual relationship that we have with Summit Technologies to move us to completion. So we're not asking for a new contract to be drafted. This is an extension of an existing contract that we have with Summit Technologies.
Okay, I'm not sure I'm not sure I understand what that means. I'm so sorry, but,
Yeah, so it's an extent, so we've procured already, retained Summit Technologies to do the first set of work. That's where the developer portal and some initial customer relationship management systems were built out to support SLDC. Now, as we move into the next phase of work, we're asking for an extension of the contract above the cap that we've already had agreed to with Summit Technologies in order for them to complete this next phase of work, which would be for 600 hours at $150,000.
okay, thanks, Neil. So the original monetary cap was what?
It was $50,000.
Okay, and so now we're adding an additional 100 by making the total 150?
So no, so it's
a new contract for additional work.
the new contract. So the
So
$50,000
let's
has already been exhausted. The $50,000 of work have already been completed. So now it's the next $150,000 to complete the remaining set of work that Summit Technologies will complete to support SLDC moving forward in phase 2. So it's not an additional 100,000, it's an additional 150,000 total to complete this effort.
Okay, I'm a little bit confused because when Director Gilbert was asking questions, the total was 150, and now it seems like the total is 200 with the original 50 and this 150. Is that correct?
So if Director Spencer, if you're looking at the totality of the engagement with Summit Technologies in its entire relationship, with the approval of this resolution, the total engagement would be at a total of $200,000.
Okay, and is
Would
that,
be the entire scope of the work.
so is that for the scope of the work as described in these documents, or was the original 50,000 applied to additional work outside of this scope?
So the first initial $50,000, Director Spencer had a scope of work that was completed and executed. The scope of work that was provided to the directors in the board packet constitutes the scope of work, not a new contract, constitutes the scope of work to extend the contract of 600 hours to do phases 1 and 2 as defined in the scope of work provided to the directors in your packet.
Okay, thanks, Lance. That's helpful.
Yes, ma'am.
And this work that Summit, even though Summit is a Salesforce specialized company, this work it's a little bit confusing because we have a initial contract and then phase 1 and phase 2 of a second contract, if I'm understanding correctly. So a total of maybe 3 phases. This work is not for Salesforce work. It is exclusively for building a framework for the economic justice plan. Is that correct?
So I would liken the description of when we say Salesforce and we say the Economic Justice Action Plan, those two things are synonymous. The Economic Justice Action Plan is being designed within the architecture of a Salesforce framework to allow us to execute and track. And so we're not creating 2 separate things. The Salesforce platform, we're leveraging our Economic Justice Action Plan as the mainframe, if you will, of what's been in Salesforce, or all the activity happening in and around SLDC will be tracked against the Economic Justice Action Plan. And as we develop products, and an example as we go into the later part of our discussion today, the products that we're designing will also have an interface with the Economic Justice Action Plan for us to track those who receive capital and engage with the products that we offer in the market, to extensively be able to communicate not only our investment, but the private capital and investment that our investments are able to track and trigger into the market. And so I will say that the scope of work that was completed and executed, which includes the developer portal, that work is done. That was a part of the original scope of work. And engaging with Summit Technologies to ensure that we move forward and have a Salesforce integration based upon the Economic Justice Action Plan architecture. We've engaged, thought very deeply about what is the scope of work that's needed to be done to prevent us from having to do these states engages in the future, and scoped out the work at about 600 hours. And we're coming back to make that request in these 2 phases of work. And we've asked them to do it in 2 phases just so that we can report on how the progress is moving forward. but our ability to ask this board to extend our capacity to do an extension above the $50,000 cap for sole source contracts is an expeditious request for us to be able to execute work in a timely fashion. Where over the last 3 weeks and into the next 5 weeks, we will be meeting with the Summit Technology team at minimum 3 days a week, sometimes 4 cases, working with each business line to ensure that they have the information from our colleagues to build the architecture so they can meet the goals and objectives of having us in a position to track and monitor and also accelerate the SLDC.
Okay, thanks, Lance. I guess in our last board meeting, I expressed my confusion, I suppose, in the total number of contracts that SLDC that we as a board are going to be asked and have been asked to authorize. And looking at the full breadth of contracts, I think would help to answer some of the questions I had on the front end. How is this part of a $150,000 or $200,000 contract, and what are we expecting to kind of contract with this individual and other individuals doing other work in a general sense? I'm not sure. I might have missed an email related to that.
Director Spencer, we have been working to gather that information and put it in a way that we can share with the entire board. So we will be able to execute on that kind of documentation of all contracts post this discussion to give you a sense of contracts that we've used and where they stand. I would love to communicate to the directors that using contractual services in moments in time allows us to accelerate the work. And then as we accelerate the work, we're building the internal operational muscle as Mr. Richardson is now going through the process, or Director Richardson going through the process of hiring a chief operating officer who will then have the stewardship of moving these accelerated tools into the standard operational practice of the organization that can provide ongoing support and information to this body as well as the community at large. And so we will get this board all those contracts that we have in place, and really the value of how contractual services has allowed us as an organization to receive the stewardship responsibility of $112 million and the ability to execute it. Consulting services has been a tremendous part of our ability to do so in a thoughtful and strategic way that allows us to have a high level of accountability and integrity in the work that we're able to execute here at SLDC. So we definitely will provide that information to this entire body.
Thanks, Lance. I'll just say it's hard for me to put in context this contract in the grand scope of work that is being contracted out in a general sense. And the fact that Summit isn't located in St. Louis certainly gives my heart some pause as they're executing on this St. Louis economic justice plan. Certainly does caused me some heartache that we didn't find a local firm to execute and provide those services. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Spencer. Director McBride.
Oh, thank you, President Richardson. I just wanted to kind of give some context. It seems belatedly, perhaps, but my understanding of the bringing on of Summit and most importantly, just Salesforce itself, is that had been a platform that had been requested by staff for a number of years in an effort to modernize the SLDC capabilities to interact with both developers, contractors, service providers to the SLDC itself. And that some of these lump sums that we're talking about are, to yank SLDC into the present and to let it communicate on a platform that other sophisticated developers and contractors are already using. So, and then I guess we're using that then to then springboard the same platform then to monitor our economic justice plan benchmarks. So I think that's a good use of the resources and good to keep SLDC continuing to modernize, continuing to stay effective and efficient. So I don't know I think that maybe you guys were focused on the nuts and bolts and numbers of the contract, but as far as the substance, I just wanted to make sure that from what I understand, the substance is what is driving this and is important for the SLDC to continue offering its high quality services to St. Louis.
Yeah, that's correct, Director McBride. And I thank you for that historical context as you are very experienced member of the, the SLDC.
You can say old, that's okay.
seasoned director. And having some of that historical context around, you know, the evolution of SLDC. And, you know, historically we've leveraged spreadsheets and emails to just track and monitor progress. Whereas now, as we are continuing to grow and scale our operation, having several different lines of business, communicating with developers across business lines allows us to ensure that, you know, we're not duplicating communications, or we're providing the latest information to our customers and our partners that we work with, which is critically important. And also, as we are moving the Economic Justice Action Plan forward, and some of the initiatives that you will hear in a few moments, it is important that all of our staff have a clear understanding of the work that's happening within our organization. As we have now 9 neighborhood managers that are supporting all 79 neighborhoods, they're continuously asked questions about the new products, the programs, the initiatives, and our priorities, and being able to have at their fingertips the ability to pull that information down and provide those updates to the community is critically important, as well as knowing when we communicate with residents, businesses, and neighborhood organizations, being able to track that information, being able to track their priorities. So as we're sharing that information with potential businesses, potential residents, they will also understand the needs of those communities in a more efficient manner, but also be very transparent. I know one of the calls from the public was for us to be more transparent through the incentive process. And this portal also allows us to do that as well, being able to share the applications and the other information that's available to the public. And then also being able to give the developer, as stated in Josh's presentation, the status of where their application or where their project is within the incentive process is critically important as well. So that cuts down on staff time and many of those areas. And then also having a consistent application that's not a spreadsheet that people are sending to Zach or into like a black box. Is going through a very formal process is critically important in providing that consistency and transparency. And those are the things that are required to be built out from a technology standpoint for SLDC to meet the standards internally and externally as we continue to drive the organization forward. So I appreciate those comments, Director McBride, and we'll wrap up with Director Sean Spencer's remarks or questions as well.
Thank you, President Richardson. I'm excited to see this move forward, especially being in the development community. A lot of developments end up not happening, and then you've got to figure out, who was the last contact, what part of the process were they in? Is the site still available? Is the developer still pursuing development? So I think it's going to be a great win, and I'm excited to see it happen. I know we're going to get an update from Rodney Krim about the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership and our contract with them. I'm wondering how you envision Salesforce working with that contract and holding them accountable for the work that we expect to see from them as a board. As a reminder to our full board, the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership's getting about 10% of our entire budget, which is, $1 million contract. So we know how valuable that money is, and we want to make sure that that's coming back to the city of St. Louis. So just wanted to get your feedback on that.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll definitely pass it over to our Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, Steve Davis, and if Rodney has any comments. But I know the SLEDP is also working to update their Salesforce processes and technology to communicate more effectively with SLDC, and also not just SLEDP, but also CDA, Affordable Housing Commission, DHS, other city departments in which we receive funding from, being able to share that information across our respective Salesforce platforms allows us to communicate more effectively as well. So Steve, do you want to make just quick 30 seconds to a minute comment there?
Yeah, I was going to jump in real quick, and we were going to provide a little update on that during our presentation coming up in a few moments. But we have been working together to leverage Salesforce as we're tracking our business retention meetings. So we've implemented what's called a Salesforce to Salesforce connection. So as we meet with the company and we're entering the information and the data that we receive, it's going into a common object and common file that both parties can see. So we're basically working out of the same file and sharing information that way. So we are working to be collaborative on the Salesforce front and working towards continuous improvement on information sharing. So
Thank you. I wasn't even aware that they used the system too. I was hoping that was gonna be, so
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. So with that, I would like to entertain a motion to approve. Let me get back to the resolution now. I was walking through the board documents. To approve resolution number 24 SLDC 932. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move, McBride.
Second, Spencer.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Alderwoman Kara Spencer,
Present.
Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director McBride,
Aye.
Director Sean Spencer,
Aye.
Director Reed,
Aye.
and Chair Richardson.
Aye. With the aye votes, the motion passes to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 932. We'll go to the next resolution, number 24 SLDC 933, authorizing a grant for downtown retail incentive program. Exciting. Pass it over to our Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, Mr. Stephen Davis.
thank you, Chairman Richardson. As stated, this resolution is authorizing a grant agreement between GSL and SLDC to stand up a downtown retail incentive program. I'm really excited about it, and I'll jump right in. So the Downtown Retail Incentive Program is a plan co-created by GSL and the St. Louis Development Corporation to bring the recommendations of the Design Downtown Plan to life and attract high-quality retail businesses to downtown St. Louis. So by leveraging $100,000 in ARPA interest funds and entering a grant agreement between SLDC and the GSL Foundation, we're looking to stand up 2 new pilot retail incentive programs that will be ready to launch in early April, with the goal of expanding access of high quality goods and services available to the residents and visitors within the walking distance neighborhoods of downtown. The goal of this program is to make downtown a more attractive neighborhood, not only for businesses, but residents and visitors as well. So a quick overview of the 2 programs. The first program we're looking to roll out is the Retail Rent Guarantee Program. So what it is, it's a program designed to encourage property owners to lease space in downtown to best-in-class retail tenants by providing backstop of rents for tenants who do not fulfill their lease obligations. The program will ultimately pay landlords rent for up to 1 year for non-performing tenants under certain conditions, thereby reducing landlord risk while encouraging leases to tenants that bring the greatest value to downtown. So there is additional detail about these programs outlined in your packet, so I won't go through all of them. But the second program we're looking to roll out is the Retail Tenant Improvement Grant Program. So what that is, it offers grants to property owners and tenants to assist with the interior and exterior tenant improvements to high impact street level commercial spaces. So how this would work, landlords or tenants will apply to Greater St. Louis Inc. and SLDC and outline the tenant improvements that they seek to make. And so SLDC and GSL will review these grants based on merit. The grant application, like I said, we hope to open in April and will be extended through the month of August. So I'll pause there and open it up for any questions.
Thanks, Steve. Any questions from the directors in relation to this resolution? Director Gilbert.
Yes, is Greater St. Louis putting in additional funding, or is this anticipated to only be 100,000?
No, that is correct. Greater St. Louis Inc. is matching the $100,000 for this program, including additional funding for potential future pilot programs as well.
Okay, so, and we're engaging somebody outside to manage this program?
Yeah, so we are seeking a third-party person or group to actually manage the grant applications, review process, and contact between the businesses and SLDC in Greater St. Louis Inc. That is correct.
Okay, and so who gets the ultimate say, yay or nay? Is there somebody on staff who's going to review this? And
Yeah, so the final decisions will be made between a small committee comprised of SLDC staff and GSL staff as well.
thank you.
Thank you, Director Gilbert. Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Director Richardson. I just wanted to kind of maybe have a plan to come back before SLDC and present the findings and, or, kind of how this, how this played out and the success of it. So we could maybe review that and see it as a pilot program that could maybe continue.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely want to, track the successes of this program. And since it is a pilot program, we hope that it's very successful and that it can become we could have more permanent solutions moving forward and make it more sustainable. And also add, as we're going out looking to attract retailers to St. Louis, it's important to have these tools to be able to present to brokers and retailers to attract them here. So.
Just for transparency's sake, I know we recently allocated $15.3 million out of the ARPA interest funds, to the convention center at the Board of Aldermen, or we're still, in the process of making that complete. But the $100,000 that came out of interest, I know how is that authorized without going through the Board of Aldermen, and what is the mechanism that we are able to just sort of allocate that through here?
Yeah, and so I'll speak to that. So that is funds that SLDC has received for our program. So as we are investing and allocating grants through our various programs of SLDC, we have those funds in our stewardship that we then are able to allocate as we go through the process. For example, the North City Grant Program or the small business grant programs that we've allocated and supported, we have those monies and those funds in interest-bearing accounts. So they earn interest, and that is earned interest that has been attributed to SLDC. And then we are able to invest those resources into programs or into the operations of being able to support those overall success of those ARPA programs that we receive. So those are funds that are being managed by our finance team within SLDC as we're going through the disbursement process of those grants. And being stewards of the funds, we want to ensure that those funds are not just sitting in a regular account, they're in an interest-bearing account. And so as we receive that interest, we're now able to have other initiatives such as this one to support those efforts moving forward.
Okay, so it's just the SLDC tranche of
Yes, exactly.
Are there other interest funds that have been gained out of that we are going to be looking to allocate?
So we have allocated, so the Laclede Landing Main Street program, we have some of the graffiti removal downtown has gone towards those accounts. What our plan is because, for example, Laclede Landing is not in a HUD qualified census tract. It is not prioritized for the ARPA funds. However, we know they have had a detrimental impact. COVID has had a detrimental impact on the success of the Laclede Landing. COVID has had a detrimental impact on retail downtown. And so our goal is to use that more flexible capital with the ARPA interest to invest into those areas in which would be more challenging under kind of the regular capital that we've already received. So leveraging that interest to make other investments in really many of our other areas across the city that are not within our HUD qualified census tracts that we know have been negatively impacted by COVID as well. So we've been strategic of how we've been utilizing those resources. So any funds that are coming from that account over $20,000 has to come before this board to be authorized. And that's, what we're doing here is being able to spend those funds towards those efforts.
Thank you, Director Richardson. It'd be helpful just to kind of understand how much it's gained from interest, and we can follow up with that after the meeting.
Okay, sounds good. And I'll have Chris and Charlie provide that information to you as well. And this is part of our overall downtown strategy to support downtown. And we've had some activation specifically through the ARPA interest on supporting the downtown areas that may have not received the kind of tranches of ARPA resources that were approved by the Board of Aldermen and the mayor's office. So this is our way to support businesses leveraging these funds.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I would like to entertain a motion to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 93.
So moved.
Second, Sean Spencer.
I have a motion and a second. Have a roll call vote, please.
Alderwoman Kara Spencer,
Aye.
Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director McBride,
Aye.
Director Sean Spencer,
Aye.
Director Reed,
Aye.
and Chair Richardson.
Aye. That the motion passes to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 933. And those are the only two big items, resolutions that we had today. But we do have some exciting announcements that we want to talk about and give an update to the board of directors on. One is the Be Well Cafe program. And you all may recall, maybe just over a year ago, we approved $300,000 grant to support the Be Well Cafe. And then CDA just awarded them with another $354,000 to support that initiative in the Hyde Park neighborhood. That is really an incubator and support for that community to have healthy food access, as well as being able to support entrepreneurs. So as we talk about our three pillars within the Economic Justice Action Plan, Empower, Develop, Transform, Be Well Cafe is a priority project for us, and it's really working to transform that community through the empowerment of one of their community leaders, Ms. Fatima Muhammad. And I know our team has went out to visit the site, and we've gotten some great coverage on the success of that program. And so with that, I'll pass it over to Sarah that will show the video of kind of the update.
We're really focused on investing in areas that have been historically marginalized and underserved. And that's really what the American Rescue Plan Act funds were geared to achieve.
Neil Richardson leads St. Louis Development Corporation. He says this project is like a down payment on the future for these underserved neighborhoods. Mayor Tashara Jones, city and community leaders had shovels in the ground, symbolizing breaking ground for new life in this typically ignored part of St. Louis.
This is one small step towards the economic revitalization that needs to happen on the north side of our city, which has been left to fail for decades.
Be Well Cafe, still under construction, will soon bring jobs, a rain garden, and a farmer's market, a place where Hyde Park residents can access fresh foods right in their community. After all, the name is Be Well.
The name says it all. When you come here, you're going to be well when you leave.
Muhammad says this project is all about erasing racial and economic disparities and building a strong community.
So it was really exciting. Again, I think it's important for the board to have these updates and know that the funds and the work that we approve through these board meetings are making a real impact in community. So again, appreciate you all support there. Any questions or comments about Be Well Cafe? Okay. Well, we'll keep, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Just one question. How, I know we talked about it last year. What's the current situation on the construction? They've started, I know, on some work, but how far are they along, and what's the schedule? Yeah,
so the project is coming along very well, Director Spencer. It is, as you can see kind of in the picture with me, Fatima, her husband, and Mayor Jones, right behind it is the facade of the Be Well Cafe. That was a previous LRA property. That facade had completely collapsed. And so they rebuilt that facade, they restored the brick. They have a pocket park that's adjacent to it. And they are planning to open the Be Well Cafe, the actual market, in the summer of this year. The area where we were breaking ground is going to be the farmers market and rain garden. So CDA had provided a $350,000 grant to support the Be Well Cafe, rain garden, and farmers market But the project that we supported was the development that you see, the redevelopment of that LRA property. And so that the plan is for that to be open by the summer of 2024. So really excited to have that be done. So yes, they're just in the finishing portion. So when they leave the inside of the building, they're just doing the finishes now, the kind of the plumbing and the drywall paint, and then they have some commercial kitchen equipment that they will be bringing in for the entrepreneurs to be able to leverage to support the community. So it's really exciting initiative and endeavor.
Yeah, and this kind of gets back to the first resolution. You know, with LCRA providing that 300K grant, to be able to get reports on, you know, what's happening with that grant, what's happening with that project, makes it a lot easier. So
yeah, exactly, and that's one of the things that, you know, I've been spending a lot of time on with the mayor's office, with the mayor's chief of staff, Jared Boyd, on ensuring that the departments are talking together. And that, you know, as we support a project or CDA or the other city departments support projects, that we finish those projects, right? And it's not just giving partial funding to one project. It's being able to ensure that we're able to close that full gap. But also if a project receives resources from one department, we're communicating the progress of those projects. So again, this $300,000 grant that we provided to support the building, now CDA was able to use that as in their application, their review process to say the city's already supporting this. How do we continue to accelerate the growth of this development that's a catalyst for this neighborhood overall? And so it's been good to see that continue to progress.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next open item, agenda item, which was a big holiday in St. Louis, 314 Day. And so we had some exciting announcements on 314 Day, the launch of our new programs and products, and really provided a strong update to the community on the North City Grant Program. So I know we have another video teed up for 314 Day. I pass it over to Candace.
Happy 314 Day, everybody. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Last October, the Land Clearance Redevelopment Authority purchased this vacant building on Martin Luther King Boulevard as the new Center for Economic Mobility on MLK, situated on 15 total acres. This campus will be the workforce and training campus for North St. Louis City and the entire region.
It's great to be back in this building, this wonderful building, because I know it's a little dusty now, but I'm hoping that you can see the vision.
314 Day is the launch of several programs at SLDC. Our home buyer assistance program, our small business and nonprofit grant program, as well as our contractor loan fund. These are funds that are going to be put into communities that help small businesses, to help people build new homes. We put together the Economic Justice Action Plan over a year ago with specific goals to empower, develop, and transform. And now it's not a plan anymore that's going to sit on the shelf. It is in action, referenced by all of the things that we announced today. People are going to see changes in their communities that they can see and feel.
So again, another just great testament to the work that we're moving forward on the Economic Justice Action Plan, leveraging ARPA resources. And I know this board is really excited and has approved funding among these various programs. But I'm really excited to talk about, you know, how we're putting those funds to use. So I'll actually pass it back over to Lance Knuckles, Senior Vice President Strategic Growth. Sorry, Lance. To talk about the 3 new products that is coming out of his shop. Lance, you're on mute, sir.
Thank you, Director. It is always exciting to be at a moment in time where all the work, as they say, of the sausage making that is not really sexy or not visible to community to find ourselves in a moment in time where we're able to manifest the hard work between SLDC as an organization and subrecipient agreement, partner with the Community Development Agency Administration. And so through a lot of hard work and negotiating, we have a product that we're really proud of, bringing up to $50,000 into the market to allow families at or below 80% AMI seeking to buy homes in the city, as well as those who are seeking to buy homes in HUD qualified census tracts in the city, the opportunity to access up to $50,000. The most critical part of this, I want to make some connections as we talked about the Salesforce integration. The work that we're doing with Summit Technologies allows us to have a questionnaire, and I'm being really strategic when I use the word questionnaire, because that allows us to not only, one, understand the interest in the product, but also start to gather information around SLDC's efforts to engage community. Because the portal or the questionnaire is not a credit decision, it is really important for us to communicate that message so that as consumers complete the questionnaire, they're not equating that questionnaire as a credit application for securing a home. And so on 314 Day, we were able to really launch the key part of this program is our request for participation with lenders. And so you all as a board have been at our side at SLDC moving the work forward. And you remember our audacious goal to attract $1 billion into this market. And so this product is a really phenomenal tool to allow us to do that, where there are places and neighborhoods in our city that have not seen mortgage originations within the last 15 or 20 years. And so our ability to bring $50,000 per household, or in totality, $4.5 million of grant assistance that can trigger in excess of $200 million of loans being brought into the market that otherwise would not be brought into the market, but for our efforts to bring this home buyer assistance dollars into the process. And so where we are now is we'll be onboarding lenders, and those lenders will be going through a vetting process, whereas we want to ensure that lenders that are participating are bringing quality products to bear, that are providing support to low income and LMI communities, and again, families who are at or below 80% AMI. And so we will have a informational session for those lenders. So if you have mortgage lenders that you know, on the website, developstlouis.org/home STL, we have a section with all the lender requirements and information that you can direct lenders to and ask them to register to attend the informational webinar on March 28th. We will be having an in-person training for all those mortgage companies that come on board. I believe it's the first or second week in April, and we'll be communicating that as those things come forward. But we're really excited about this because it does allow families, whether it's teachers, first responders, to compete in a housing market where the average housing sale is still around $220,000. And that gets really tight for a family who is at 80% AMI and below. And so these dollars will allow these families to get pre-approved with a lender, and then allow our dollars to move their potential mortgage from $200,000 down to $150,000, with the commitment that we've made at SLDC in partnership with the mayor, that housing affordability is ensuring that families have or spend 30% or less of their household income to secure safe, stable, and quality housing. And so we're really excited about it. And so as this moves forward, we will be partnering with some of our partners. And so as we talked about collaboration, it is really important to understand that other products that we've launched at SLDC in partnership with Tabernacle, CDC, and Habitat for Humanity, those two developers are constructing, I believe, 36 units of new construction or rehab houses. And these dollars with the Home STL, Home Buyer Assistance Program, will also be leveraged to create affordability for those families moving into those properties. So we're really excited about the thoughtful integration and layering of the resources that we have in our stewardship to maximize the impact and drive economic return in areas that we have not seen investment. So super excited about that. I won't go on because I love to chat about this product and others, because this is the work that excites me and allows us to really bring products and programs in places where the market has not created space for residents to participate in the economic mobility of their families and or their future.
Thank you. We'll go to the next product, please. And so the second product that we have in front of you is Scale Up STL.
really excited about this partnership with St. Louis Community Credit Union, who is one of our financial partners, who is CDFI Bank, which is a community development finance institution bank that actually has a specific mission to lend and invest into underinvested communities. And so it made very perfect sense for us to align and partner with them. And so this product, again, will go on the market. There is a questionnaire for this product as well, for us to be able to understand the market intelligence and interest, and then work directly with the underwriting teams of both this organization and our other partner at Rise Community Development to ensure we gather initial eligibility information through the questionnaire, and then allow our lending partners to do a first due diligence application, collaborating to ensure that the consumers or the potential consumers or borrowers are in a right strategic position geographically, as well as from a credit perspective, and allows us to move this work forward. And we're really excited about the ability to bring capital to market at around 4% and 6%, which is below market, that allows us to create a product and a pathway for businesses that we know in the market have not been able to access capital through very traditional financial institutions. And so this product will continue to grow and move forward. We currently have a pipeline of about $5.5 million in this product pre-launch. And so we do see this product growing and scaling. But the other part of this program is that we are going to be creating a fund that allows us to attract additional capital to be able to aggregate more dollars to support the $2.5 million investment seeded by ARPA funds and the Economic Justice Action Plan. And so there will be more information coming as we look to launch specific capital tools to attract additional dollars based upon our accelerator, which I mentioned earlier is our audacious goal to attract $1 billion into this market, with $500 million focused on government programs and products and $400 million on private equity and private debt, and then $100 million to support philanthropic capital raised to accelerate the work that we do. And so excited to talk about that, and we'll move to our final product, which is our Mobilize STL product, which is really designed in partnership with Rise Community Development to provide an opportunity for small business owners and contractors who have a secured contract that we all know historically smaller firms have a challenging opportunity to scale up and begin to move work, because in most cases, there's a 30, 60, 90-day payout cycle. And so this allows us to provide capital upfront using the contract itself as collateral to ensure that these small entrepreneurs and small businesses and contractors are able to scale up, mobilize, and get to work and not be adversely impacted by potential timing on payouts from general contractors or owners. And so again, this will be a product that will be below market rate that allow these contractors to move forward. This is not a revolving loan fund product. It is a product that we will continue to raise capital around, but based upon the structure of ARPA funds and the way it's deployed, we seek to have this program, all these funds dispersed into the market by September of 2026 to ensure we meet the regulatory guidelines and requirements of ARPA to fully disperse these funds. And so those are the products that we're bringing into the market. Really excited about it. We cannot do this work without our directors. So thank you to all of you and your partnership, Sean, Director Spencer, Director Gilbert, and others who are working alongside us from a lending perspective. We have our dear friend Rodney Krim from the SLDC, where we partner a lot through LDC to get capital into the market. And so these additional products allows us to have a really more robust continuum of capital to bring into the market to support an on-ramp and scale-up opportunity for businesses in St. Louis. And so I'm excited to bring these things to you all as our committed board of directors and supporting the effort of our director and CEO, Mr. Neil Richardson. So thank you all for the time, and I'll answer any questions you all might have about any of these products that we've talked about so far.
Any questions or comments from the board about Director Spencer?
I just have a quick one. I was on a train for 7 hours and had a chance to read the CDA Affordable Housing Report. And in the report, they talked about creating a housing strategy and maybe even considering a housing director. And I wondered, if there's been any progress around that, and maybe if there's concentrated geographies that you're looking at mobilizing maybe some of these funds to get a certain market to where, we can get additional investments from private developers.
Yeah, Director Spencer, that's a great question. I have the privilege of having the opportunity to lead Dylan Halliam, who is a citywide housing strategist on my team. And my strategy team is focused on creating strategies in 5 key areas: support housing, small business, vacancy, workforce, and also supporting the environmental space, working to create comprehensive strategies that are kind of citywide and also potentially regional in nature, and then really focusing on what efforts we can do inside the city of St. Louis, which will be highlighted and clearly defined within the Economic Justice Action Plan 2.0, which we're on track to have be brought back into the community in October of 2024. And so we do have a housing strategist that's doing that work. We have a vacancy strategy in partnership with CDA. There's currently a vacancy strategy approach being done through a consultant partner of the Vacancy Collaborative, and SLDC is deeply seated in that relationship and moving that work forward. And we're excited about the increased and enhanced collaboration between CDA and SLDC to ensure that there's significant alignment in the opportunities that we bring forward. I think to your comment, Director Spencer, about identifying strategic areas, that it is a part of this work. And so Mr. Shelton Anderson, who is our Vice President of Real Estate for LRA, we have been actively engaged in a protocol that he calls a block by block approach. And CDA is a strong partner with us, identifying where we have opportunities to leverage and layer resources. And so that is a real critical component of how we're looking to be effective, efficient, to create equitable strategies that allow us to transform the city, and more specifically in areas that we call our demonstration areas, and then also focus on EGI 1 and EGI 2 index areas, as we know that that index is identifying the greatest need and opportunities for us to transform and move work forward in our great city. So I'll yield the floor, and I see that Director Spencer has her hand raised.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Director Richardson. I just had a couple quick questions about the home buying product. And I'm looking at the website here just to get a little more information. Do we have two main questions here? Do we have a map that where homes are qualified? You mentioned those areas that historically haven't had much lending activity lands. Are there requirements, geographically speaking, where these homes must be located? And secondly, do we have any relationships or partnerships identified with existing banking institutions to fulfill the rest of that mortgage need?
So those are great questions. Director Spencer. So we currently, as it relates to the mortgage industry, we are not in a position to direct or steer consumers into any specific places. It is our opportunity, based upon how the program is designed, to offer home buyer assistance for any home that is eligible and on the market and meets the criteria within the entire city, as well as if individuals choose to purchase a home that are in HUD qualified census tracts, then they would be able to secure additional dollars or up to additional $10,000 to support them. We are not in a position to direct consumers in any way, whereas we do not want to violate any federal guidelines as it relates to steering, because it is a protected institution or a protocol where the data is collected and gathered around how people are accessing credit and capital and how they move forward with free decision making, or what they call informed consent. And so that is how we're doing that work, and working with organizations like NARAB, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, and the Realtors of Missouri, to identify and ensure that they have access to this information. So as they are engaging with consumers who are pre-approved, they have the knowledge and understanding of how HUD qualified census tracts come into bear, so they can actually support a family in their search for a home that best suits their financial needs and capacity. As it relates to lenders, we currently have a call for lenders out right now. And so we've received, I believe, after the press conference, I had about 45 emails within 2 hours of our press conference on 314 Day. And so we're actively engaged there, Director Spencer. And again, that webinar that's being held on the 28th We will go through the program in detail about the requirements that are required for lenders to participate, because this is not just we have a product that anyone can engage with from a financial services perspective, that there are requirements and expectations for lenders and behaviors and practices. So they do have to sign an agreement with SLDC about those performances and practices to be able to participate and use these funds to support their clients that they're working with. And so that process will continue to move over the next 30 days. And as we onboard those lenders, that lender roster will be on the Home STL website for consumers to be able to grab and aggregate and start to engage with the lender that's in that space. The one final thing I'll say, Director Spencer, is that if a consumer is working with a lender already, we're encouraging those consumers to engage with their lender, direct them to the website, and see if they are willing to participate and go through the protocol of becoming a pre-approved lender with this program. Otherwise, if the lender is not in a part of that process and in a signed agreement, that consumer would not be able to access the product, but for if they were engaged with a lender that was on that pre-approved list.
Okay, so the pre-approved, the Home STL that is identified on the website is SLDC, or is there a separate organization that's going to be approving the lenders?
So SLDC is approving the lenders in partnership with CDA.
Okay,
We
gotcha.
do not have an external partner making those decisions. We do have a consultant partner that help us design and stand up the legal documents in partnership with our legal team. But decision-making about those lenders who are approved to be in the program, that it remains in the hands and stewardship of SLDC in partnership with CDA.
Sounds good, thanks. And I just lastly, is there a requirement that those homeowners stay in the city of St. Louis and remain in that home as a occupied, owner-occupied individual for some time? I think it's a great program, and I think
Yes,
it's a
ma'am.
great way to encourage people to buy homes. I just want to make sure that, that we've got some protections that folks are staying in those homes as not a renter or not a landlord, but as a homeowner.
Yeah, Director Spencer, I think that's a great question, and I'm glad you raised it. The program is designed to ensure that families who receive up to $50,000 are required to have a 15-year affordability period, which means that we're looking to have those families stay in the home for 15 years before our $50,000 grant is forgiven in totality. But if a consumer decides to move in advance of that, the grant is forgiven year over year. And so an example, if a family is in that 15-year window, they sell the home in year 10, they would be responsible for paying back to SLDC the dollars from the grant for year 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And then we would then put those dollars back into the program to secure families moving forward. But the product is designed to attempt to keep families in community for a 15-year period of time. But more importantly, we're really hoping that affordability creates an opportunity for families to take root for decades and not just the 15 years that's connected to the compliance protocols of the ARPA funds being used.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Alderwoman Spencer and Lance, for that update. I think these products, I don't want the directors to lose sight of this, is, we're still in a challenging time in our housing market as well as our retail and business market. So these products are being able to be created as a way to respond to the ongoing challenges and effects of COVID, and now coming into a stage in which inflation is significantly challenging our market. We're offering products at or below market interest rates, and then also being able to ensure that families at 80% AMI or below still have access to affordable home ownership opportunities within the city of St. Louis. The last key piece, Lance, you could jump in here. On 314 Day, we did formally roll out $200,000 to 50 businesses in North St. Louis City through our North St. Louis Small Business and Nonprofit Program. As you all may recall, we had over 715 applications. We at SLDC, shout out to our neighborhood management team, as well as our compliance team and strategic growth team. and our Northside Economic Empowerment Center. We're holding one-on-one sessions through April 5th with each one of those businesses for them to learn more about what their status is in the program and to ensure that they have an equitable opportunity to get access to these funds. And so this has been a major lift for our organization, but we feel it's very important in this moment as we have this unprecedented amount of resources to support and be on the ground working with businesses one-on-one. We even had staff, including myself, Lance, and Lorna, come in over the weekend, a Saturday and Sunday, I think in a Monday during a holiday weekend, to work on ensuring that we stood these programs up and got them out into the market and communicate to the public on the status. And so I just wanted to give that quick update on the North City grant program. And then next, I want to highlight our LRA work. And I know we have maybe a short video, maybe just a clip of our LRA work that's happening in the city, and then pass it over to Shelton to give a quick update.
While it's being called a game changer for the city of St. Louis, for the first time in history, the Land Reutilization Authority has received significant funding to help stabilize, beautify, and demolish vacant properties officials say have been an eyesore for years. Kelly Hoskins shows us how the LRA is putting their plan into action.
The LRA is making a huge impact on addressing the challenges with vacant properties with the intention to reduce crime and increase the population in the city of St. Louis in a block-by-block approach. The Land Reutilization Authority, which is staffed by St. Louis Development Corporation, is on a mission to help eliminate dangerous buildings and make the city safer, creating space for investment and redevelopment while strengthening the city's role as the economic engine of the region.
Properties that are candidates for demolition are important because demolition is just one step for the phases of redevelopment. So for properties that cannot be stabilized, properties that are demolished are ones that are in areas with the most amount of vacancy. They're ones that are in the areas with the most historical disinvestment. We're then able to redevelop and market properties to developers and to community members for the redevelopment and reactivation of the blocks in St. Louis.
Oh, that's perfect. Actually, that was a great shot of our new Hebert Homes project as well that's coming up, that was funded through the $10 million of ARPA in partnership with Tabernacle CDC and Habitat for Humanity. So as you know, we're not just demolishing buildings, we're also putting buildings up in their place. So it's exciting to see that great work that's being led by Shelton. So I'll pass it over to you, Shelton, for a quick overview. I just think it's important for our directors to understand the work that you're leading from LRA.
Yes, good morning, and thank you, Chairman Richardson and SLD Board. Always a pleasure to get the opportunity to present to you on the exciting work that SLDC and LRA has been moving forward. And as you may know, just as a quick summary, LRA has approximately 10,000 vacant properties. And of those vacant properties, approximately 2,000 of those are vacant buildings or structures. And so with the DED demolition program, we estimate that we will be able to demolish approximately 1,000 of LRA properties through 2026. Back in December of 2023, LRA actually finalized its agreement with the St. Louis Regional Crime Commission, and that really officially commenced the official demolition activities, whereby LRA is able to leverage approximately $15 million in funding and commence the activities for approximately 1,000 vacant structures. In January, we demolished the first two structures. You actually just saw a video of one of the first structures, and that actually was a building that was immediately behind Bryan Hill Elementary School and the school garden, and that was in the College Hill community. And so this really is an example where we're delivering on what the Economic Justice Action Plan calls for, and we're intentionally putting the first phase of those efforts in funded areas and priority demonstration areas. And just as we talked about earlier, those areas identified as EJ1 and EJ2 as the priority demonstration areas. part of what we are doing, and really for the first time, and this is exciting, LRA has in its stewardship the ability to identify using a prioritization model properties that have data such as the Citizen Service Bureau data, fire damaged structures, structurally condemned structures, those that are nearby schools, certainly again, those that are in EJ1 and EJ2 and other identifiers to really be intentional about understanding where LRA has the majority of its inventory and ownership on blocks, and then strategically aligning not just the demolition activities, but other programs in those efforts in a block by block approach. And Lance talked about it a little bit earlier. It's also not just focusing on LRA properties, but also having conversations with the Vacancy Collaborative, which is now the Vacancy Initiative, in understanding where not only LRA has a high concentration of properties, but where we have vacant properties that are also private properties. So these conversations and partnerships are really allowing us for the first time in history to further the efforts of not just LRA, but all of the city agencies and all of the private sector in being able to really develop a strategy that's focused around, again, what we refer to as the block by block approach. And then lastly, I will talk about the beautification program. LRA launched the beautification program, which consists of debris removal and mowing of vacant properties. That also really is in the block by block approach, where if LRA has a property that is being demolished next to it that is neighboring, and it also has a high concentration of property ownership for vacant properties, we are pouring the activations into conducting debris removal and mowing activities for properties that are adjacent to properties that are being stabilized and those that are being demolished. And so we're happy that we were able to onboard one of our first contractors that is a minority contractor in the city of St. Louis, really helping to support not just the collective efforts of debris removal and mowing, but also delivering on the other missions within St. Louis Development Corporation, which is also empowering the business community and those that also have been disinvested in. We have a current RFP out for additional contractors for the beautification program that will actually close out on next week. And so we look forward to bringing on additional contractors to support the growing season as we are now in St. Louis, and really, again, strategically having these conversations with all of our partners so that we continue these activations and these activities and really collect the funding that we currently have in these programs to further the efforts of reactivation of not just LRA properties, but properties that impact, have been historically disinvested in and impact our neighbors in St. Louis. So I will pause and yield for any questions for the directors and the SLDC board.
And Shelton, I also want to note the work that your team is doing is also being communicated to the alderpersons and to the public as we are prioritizing demolition, as we're prioritizing beautification. All of that information would also live within Salesforce to be shared with our neighborhood transformation team. So they're able to now communicate to their constituents, the neighborhood organizations, the alderpersons, pull down a report, share that information with the public prior to any of these activities actually being completed, but then also being able to track the status and the work that we have done. So as we continue to move forward, being able to show, a year from now, we demoed 100 properties in this area, we can now have a map, we can show some of that data and those statistics, and then over time, understand the impacts, positive or negative potentially, or just understanding the work of how these programs impacted those neighborhoods. So then we can be able to scale and make data-informed decisions moving forward. So that is also critically important. So Shelton, thank you very much for your hard work of the LRA team. I know it's not easy. You've been working hard on procuring these various contractors and demo specialists and staffing up your team to ensure that we're not just demoing these properties, we're doing it in a very environmentally friendly way as well. So kudos to you and your team. I do see Lance's hand. I want to recognize you, sir.
Yes, sir, Director Richardson. I just wanted to call out, there was a question in the chat. That it was a question, if someone wants to save or rehab a structure set to be demolished, will their efforts be blocked by LRA? I want to just, and I don't know if that's a resident and community or someone from the board. I do want to just respond to that and allow our VP of real estate to second motion or amen what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
Is that LRA property that is set up for demolition are set up for demolition based upon a set of criteria, and being unsafe is one of the critical criteria for how a LRA property is being set for demolition. And so if a developer or an individual is seeking to address one of those sites, there would need to be significant proof of financial capacity to develop and execute a project in order to change or mobilize or move a protocol of raising an unsafe and unstable property within the stewardship of LRA. Safety and security is job number one for LRA, to ensure that we're responsive, or our director, VP of real estate, Mr. is really thoughtfully thinking about. And so if a structure is on a demolition list, it is not there because someone just made a random decision to remove something. It is there based upon a scorecard of assessment that is being conducted on these parcels on an ongoing basis through partnership with inspectors to actually assess these parcels. And then they're being prioritized based upon the geographic location to public goods and services or the safety issues. And so I just wanted to make it clear that someone looking to address a property in LRA stewardship, one has to understand the sensitivity around safety. And if it is on a demolition list, it's there for a reason, and it will require some substantial revenue to prove out that that building should not be torn down, and you have the capability or capacity to bring that structure into an occupancy perspective. So I'll allow our VP of real estate to respond, and I see Director Spencer has his hand raised.
Yeah, so, that is absolutely correct, Lance. The transparency and the context is that these are vacant properties that have unfortunately been vacant for a number of years, most of those which are structurally condemned, fire damage, and in various areas of disrepair. And so certainly all of the qualifying factors of conducting a scorecard analysis, a physical site inspection, is the predecessor for properties being placed into a demolition program, then being further placed into a demolition package, which is also prioritized by the level of emergency condemnation, structural condemnation, et cetera, for that demolition. So definitely so. We have, for the first time again in history, been able to conduct an analysis whereby we're placing properties into programs. And so the majority of programs that will qualify in this context for this question would be more geared towards a stabilization product and a stabilized building program. And so those are ones that certainly we are intentionally marketing to the investment and development community, as they are the first area of buildings that certainly would qualify for and align with the needs of those in the investment and development community to be able to actually stabilize.
Thank you, Shelton. Director Spencer, then I want to make sure that we create some space for the partnership.
Thank you. VP Anderson, I'm excited that you're in this position. Definitely support demo, the crime, the safety, all those reasons. But one of the things that hasn't been touched on is the preservation of significant historic assets. And maybe you could speak to how cultural resources and maybe some part of the checklist might be to make sure that those properties that have significant historic significance are protected. The north side has about a third of the historic districts compared to the south side, so they don't have a lot of protections. And I just want to make sure that there's some thought being given to property we may want to save.
Sure. No, thank you for that, Director Spencer. So absolutely, a part of our process is really having these conversations with all of our interagencies and city agencies. And so one of the first steps for properties that are historic structures is really submitting to cultural resources and even PDA in cases and others within the city agencies, properties that have been assessed. The actual mechanism for assessment is such that our contractors and or our actual property manager and project manager who performs assessments actually places the data for the assessments of individual properties into a platform that we currently use and all city agencies use, which is referred to as CityWorks. And that information is shared unilaterally with our other agencies. And so we've actually had conversations with Cultural Resources on the attributes of what it actually uses to make determinations on historic structures. And so when those assessments are conducted, that is a part of the analysis. It actually goes as a first step to Cultural Resources for review and determination. And it performs its own determination on properties that are in historic districts or have historic covenants before there is a decision to either demolish or even to potentially place it into a stabilization program. And so that is the active work that we're conducting. One of our structures that is historical, which is unfortunately has been sustained in fire damage several times. We've actually gone through that process of reviewing and having conversations as early as yesterday. And so we're looking at ways where we can preserve historical relics and artifacts and or even the structure itself. And in cases where we cannot actually maintain the existing structure, even preserving pieces of that structure to be historically placed into archives. And so that is, again, a part of the active work and the life cycle that is a process and it is not circumvented, and being intentional about really reviewing and being intentional about all of our properties in the LRA's inventory.
That's an excellent response. Thank you so much for that. That gives me a lot of comfort. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I would also be remiss is that that same communication cadence is followed with the building division as a part of the $15 million that LRA has in its inventory that it has been the recipient from the relationship between Missouri Department of Economic Development and the St. Louis Regional Crime Commission. There is also a $15 million match whereby LRA leverages the building division in its funding in its annual budget for demolition activities. So there's a partnership between not just LRA, but the building division on demolition activities. And so it is also in lockstep with the process of all demolitions that occur in the city of St. Louis that relate to LRA properties.
Thank you.
And then I think it's also worth noting, Shelton, the relationship with the fire department and your conversations with the fire chief, just to ensure that we're staying in constant communication, understanding that there's been, some challenges historically there, but also as we are assessing these buildings, we are keeping them informed, but also as we have, structures that may be damaged by, unfortunate fires that occur, that they have an open line of communication with Shelton on an ongoing basis to have those communications. So I don't know if you have any 2-second comments there, Shelton, then I want to pass it over to Rodney.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that is also the active engagement. Again, it is a part of the life cycle that really is a partnership and an effort with the team within LRA, within SLDC and all of our interagencies. And so, again, a part of that life cycle is having not just the conversations, but we're data focused. When we look at buildings and really scorecarding, it should not be that Shelton or individually that we're injecting, not just what we believe to be the case, but really looking at the data. And then also having those conversations and being cognizant of the community and the impact. So that is all a part of not just the conversations, but the actual active data and the process of which LRA goes into identifying properties before they go into an inventory to be demolished, and then even the prioritization of how those will occur and the communication cadence that also occurs with community, which we're fortunate to have Darrell Smith and his team of neighborhood transformation managers who are actively engaged with community and being able to communicate that SLDC and LRA is making.
Thank you, Shelton. With that, the last open item that we have today is an update from the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership. As you all are aware, as the Board of Directors, SLDC and the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership, since its really existence has been in relationship contractually and just in partnership, just in relational as well. And we executed the contract last year to extend for another 10 years, but continuing to evaluate that contract on an ongoing basis, getting updates continuously from the Economic Development Partnership on how they're leveraging the use of the funds that we have invested with the partnership and how they are working to strengthen the region overall, and specifically the city of St. Louis as part of their ongoing operations and support. So with that, I'll pass it over to the President CEO of the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership, Mr. Rodney Clinton.
All right. Good morning, all. I just want to make sure how much time would you like this to be?
Sorry, if you can cut it off in the next 20 minutes, Rodney.
Oh, yeah, for sure. All right. I'll just make a couple of quick comments and then I'm going to turn it over to our team. And so, just like Neil mentioned, we've been spending a lot of time meeting with each other as well as with our teams on how to strengthen our partnership. Kind of go to the 2.0 version. I think Lance mentioned 2.0, and I'm really excited about a number of the things that SLDC and all of you are doing as directors moving things forward. But we want to address ongoing needs and opportunities and where there are opportunities to kind of shift some things that SLDC might do over to the partnership that again falls under that umbrella of collaboration and impacting the city, favorably impacting the city. So we have a number of things that we've been working in collaboration on, and a lot of situations we lead these, and other situations we're a partner on, and that's going after a number of grants. Build Back Better Regional Challenge is one that the hub will be at North St. Louis City, but it has spokes out throughout the region. The story I always like to tell is Run for Women, getting more women into manufacturing, but also the connection to the Kill Art building that was referenced earlier in the discussion. We've been going after a number of grants, most recently working with not only SLDC, but the Treasurer's Office as well, going after EV funding, electric vehicle funding opportunities, Thriving Communities opportunity grant, which we were successful in getting, serving the city and the county. We're also leveraging our approach to pursue EPA and other grants, which are great. We're supporting the SLDC's RAISE grant. In addition, our Mosaic project is working in partnership with the Mayor's Office of New Americans, and we are working together on attracting more international trade opportunities, including the UK, and Minister from Rwanda will be here this weekend. In addition, we've been also doing a number of loans and the LDC through the LDC process, as you mentioned earlier in this discussion. So today we want to use this as an opportunity to go a little deeper on a discussion with you regarding our business retention, expansion, and attraction approach. We want to share with you how this all works. And so I'm excited that we have a team that is really an international award-winning team, and they'll talk a little bit about that when they begin. And then, so Steve Davis will start this presentation, and then the rest of the members will introduce themselves as they start their participation in this presentation. So, Stephen.
Thank you, Rodney. So I think our objective for today is really to talk about, again, how SLEDP and SLDC collaborate on business retention and expansion activities. And I don't know if we can bring the slideshow back up. We have a couple more slides we'd like to share. So if we can get that back up, that'd be great. And our objective for today is really to talk about, again, how we work together. What is our strategy for business retention within the city and the county? How does that lead to not only job expansion, but business attraction activities as well? Talk a little bit about our processes, and then talk a little bit about some of the challenges we may see currently in St. Louis as we do these activities. So if you go ahead and proceed to the next slide. So just a real quick background on who we are and what we do. So these are the guiding principles of the Business Retention Expansion Group. So really our role is to engage city and county companies through in-person or virtual visits to build relationships, find out what the business needs are and see how we can help drive investment in St. Louis to, again, expand and create jobs. And we want to be a proactive partner with company and business leaders in the St. Louis area, and also with those in the community to address the unique challenges that we face here in our market. The third objective we have is to identify new investment opportunities through industry knowledge and company supply chain and customer relationships. So we meet with connectors, we go to different events where we speak on panels and talk about the different activities we do, and we also learn from other industry experts. And then lastly, we want to make sure, we're being inclusive throughout our activities. So making sure we're meeting with MWBE firms and companies throughout the city and in the county as well. So with that, can we go to the next slide? So this is the list of partners who participate on our BRE committee. And again, we've met once a week since 2020, so almost 4 years now. And I myself meet with the team you're about to hear from really on a bi-weekly basis, if not more. So at the end of 2023 in December, this group got together to have a strategy session. And I would like to shout out Kristen Lappin for moderating that discussion, and SLEDP for hosting. And really, we wanted to strategize on how we can do our work better. So how can we increase the number of businesses we meet with? I think in 2023, we averaged 2 to 4 meetings per month. So maybe on average once a week. So how can we increase that number and expand our outreach? And then how can we gain more visibility and get in front of more customers and businesses? So what is our marketing strategy? So potentially partnering with the Business Journal and really building up a LinkedIn page to get the message out there that we're here to help you grow and stay in St. Louis. So again, we're always thinking about increasing, what are our goals? How do we turn these meetings and convert them into projects and business expansion opportunities? So with that, I think I will kick it over to Michelle Stuckey, who will talk a little bit more about some of the meetings that we've had and the processes that go into it. So next slide, please.
And good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Michelle Stuckey with the business development team at the partnership. So with this slide, you're going to see, so this is a map of kind of all of our meetings to date. And you'll see the number in the lower right-hand corner, the 137. That number is actually a little higher since we've created this map. But to the left, you can kind of see all of the companies that we've met with. Those in white are in St. Louis County, those in blue are in St. Louis City. And you can even kind of see some overlap because oftentimes companies have numerous locations. So we've been able to touch on them, and luckily we've been able to do this via Zoom or in person, right? So when we have these meetings, say it's via Zoom, we have had a company comment to us that, been very appreciative that they were able to do in one meeting with our team what would have taken them 6 or 7 meetings in other cities where they are located in other states. So we found that those we meet with are very appreciative. They gain a lot of knowledge from meeting with everyone. And as I said, that number, and we keep a dashboard. So in this dashboard, we try and capture all of the data. Each of those meetings is also something that I know was spoken about earlier in this board meeting in Salesforce. So each of those meetings is captured, it's connected with SLDC that they have access to the meeting notes, all of the attendees and so forth. Next slide, please. And then I think I'm going to turn it over to Jason Archer to cover this portion of our presentation.
Fine, thanks, Michelle. I'm Jason Archer. I'm in the business development group as well. And so proud to be part of the BRE and partner with SLDC and all of us together to get this going. But we have another, sometimes we all get the question of, and I apologize if this is a repeat for a lot of folks, but I kind of wanted you on the board and those listening to kind of understand, how do all these economic development agencies work together on attractions projects? So, you heard Greater St. Louis Inc. mentioned, you heard the Missouri Department of Economic Development mentioned. So for site selectors in a outside St. Louis region, Greater St. Louis Inc. and the Missouri Partnership, which is a piece of the Missouri Department of Economic Development, will go and, I can jokingly say, scour the globe. They do scour the globe. They go to like the air show in Europe. They will go to site selection meetings in DC. They will go to trade shows. And they will work with and try to meet consultants, site selectors, and get it down to where they have projects that come in called a request for informations, RFIs. So these RFIs, as they are collected, if the Greater St. Louis Inc. collects the RFI, it would go to their area, which would be St. Louis region in Missouri and Illinois. And if the Missouri Partnership collects the RFI, it would go out throughout the entire state of Missouri. So on behalf of our organizations, we have a person that monitors these RFIs requests that come out and ask for site selection. So on this slide is we just kind of pulled some random, because we scrub them, we try to make sure that they're non-identifiable. We usually don't know who they are because they're under a code name. And they will ask for sites acreage size. They will ask for building size. They might want green space. We partner with, at the beginning slide with the BRE partners, there are partners in the RFI answers, whether they're Ameren, Spire, whether they're Metropolitan Sewer District, for water needs, utility needs, and that. And so as we filter through these RFIs, then we respond, and then they go back out, and then we hope for, fingers crossed, get a conversion rate. So what we're doing right now, through these conversations with Steve Davis and Director Richardson, I guess Rob Orr and the staff, is we're going to try to work on analyzing the data from these RFIs, not the ones that we have responded to. Those are fine. What we're wanting to work on is the data that we don't meet, whether the site is 15 acres, 25 acres, rail spur ready, and we don't have that. So it's kind of an ongoing process right now. We've got 23 data points, so it's a little light on the depth of the data, but we're working together with them to sort of work on the ones that we miss and why, and what we can do to get those ready to go. And then the next slide, please, is sort of like as that conversion rate comes in, then we partner together. This slide just talks about, then it turns into formal proposals, formal work on projects. And so that's the process I wanted to discuss.
And if I could jump in real quick, and if we could go back one slide, one of the things I wanted to highlight about the site selection process, and one of the challenges that we face is if you look at the request, typically, the requests we get are between 30 and 100 acres of space that is required. And if you look at the menu on the right side, you'll see that our largest site is approximately 20 acres. And so that's why, a lot of the times we have to think really critically about, how we respond to these and get creative as far as space needs, and why proactive site assembly is so important for the city of St. Louis, so we can be more competitive as we start receiving more requests like this. And the other thing I did want to point out is when we receive these requests, we usually have about 5 to 10 days to turn these requests around. So it's a very short time frame. So there's not a whole lot of runway, I guess, if you will, to, try to develop new sites or come up with a new solution. So again, I just wanted to highlight how important it is for St. Louis and SLDC and our proactive site assembly initiatives to make ourselves more competitive. So I just wanted to draw that out real quick so we can go ahead and continue on.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. That's correct. We don't have time to assemble the site, build the rail when these RFIs come out. They are a turnaround. They are a ready now request. So thank you for clarifying that.
Yep.
I'll mute and hand this over to Tim Nowak of the World Trade Center.
Thanks, Jason. As Jason said, I'm Tim Nowak, and the Executive Director of the World Trade Center St. Louis. We're the international division for the Economic Development Partnership. Can you switch to the next slide, please? And actually, Michelle, I think, was going to cover a couple of these, but this is a highlight here. Michelle, feel free to jump in. You've got a good background on this. You wanna touch on a couple of these?
Yeah, so the picture on your left and on the lower right, that is from Ben-Hur Construction, their steelworks facility, which is located on Shreve, kind of off Interstate 70 in North St. Louis. And it was a on-site BRE meeting. So as I mentioned before, some are Zoom, some we do in person. So this was an awesome experience to get a tour of their facility, to get to meet with their executive team. And then in the top left, that is a meeting that we did with Copeland. And it's a former division of Emerson. So the new CEO for the company, Ross Schuster, who recently moved to St. Louis, we're able to get some time with him and kind of in this meeting discuss, right, both questions that they had kind of about the region as a whole. So this is where kind of our BRE team can provide that good background to companies in the city and in the county. Next slide, please. And then the picture on your top left, as Rodney referenced earlier, our BRE team, we won an award from the International Economic Development Council, IEDC. We won their silver award in the BRE category. So we're very proud of that. That was very exciting for us. And you know, it's nice to be recognized for all the hard work that we've done with this BRE committee over the years and building it, and our strategies, and that it is all working. Then the picture on your top left, that's Intramotive. That is another company here in the city that we were able to tour. And then on your bottom left, that is us speaking at the Midwest Manufacturing Leaders, MML. So it was a good opportunity to use our BRE committee to get in front of manufacturers in the region, to be able to talk with them about what we each do, what programs are potentially available, what sort of assistance we can provide. And there were a lot of good connections and meetings that come from speaking at these panels as well. And then in the bottom left, that is one of our every Friday meetings that we have a standing meeting every Friday that we all get together to discuss the meetings that we've had, thoughts that we have, suggestions that anyone has. So it's really been good to kind of keep the flow going, keep things moving. So next slide, please. And I think this goes back to Tim now.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. And that is, those photos are great because it truly is BRE in action. There's no doubt about it, through so many different ways and platforms. So, you know, the WTC, we have really enjoyed working with our colleagues at SLDC and SLEDP in the leadership in developing this BRE program. It's a particular interest to us because we also get a chance to reach out to the more than 300 foreign-owned companies that call St. Louis home, companies like Millipore Sigma, Nestle, Anheuser-Busch, and others, just to name a few. But these important investments in St. Louis not only contribute to our economy, but also our culture and our global connectivity. And with that, one of the announcements I made at our annual meeting last September is the launch of the new BRE International. So it's another subgroup, a parallel group to what we're doing, and a group from the state of Missouri and our federal partners on the export side, who now regularly meet with companies looking at expanding their business into international markets. We call it business expansion, or BRE, just by another method. And so as a part of that, also this international work, we take outbound trade missions from time to time. You see a photo here of our trade mission to London last June. We took more than 40 business and civic and economic development leaders from St. Louis celebrating Cardinals baseball in London, but also St. Louis's presence on the global stage. We had many meetings with investors and businesses and connectors, but one of the key events that we organized was a panel discussion exploring sports as a catalyst for social transformation and positive change. Jared Boyd from the mayor's office and Jason Tyne, the chief operating officer for City SC Soccer, met with and participated in a panel with the London Mayor Office and London Development Corporation. And we were really happy because Neil Richardson then led a short list of interviews with PBS Channel 9 for an hour-long program broadcast here in St. Louis called The Power of the Pitch. If you've not watched this, I encourage you to do that. It's on YouTube and also, I think, on PBS 9's website. And The Power of the Pitch explored this very topic within the strategy and also including the strategy, the Economic Justice Action Plan. So it's great for us to be able to highlight with Neil, with the SLDC team, all this great work. Next slide. And the last point I'll just make is that on May 2nd, direct flights will launch between St. Louis and Montreal via Air Canada, connecting our two communities for the very first time. Canada is our largest trade and investment partner for the state of Missouri and the St. Louis region. And as we did with Lufthansa in Germany in 2022, the WTC has organized a delegation on this inaugural flight. And we're thrilled because Mayor Jones and County Executive Page have agreed to co-lead this delegation. There's a number of St. Louis City businesses and organizations that are joining us, along with SLDC, PGAV, Kransberg Arts Foundation, GSL, and others. And one of the interesting things that we're going to look at is that what Montreal has done to reactivate their downtown environment for retails, corporation, and the community in a post-COVID environment. They've hosted, as I understand, a number of US-based cities up there to better understand the successes that they've had in doing that. So this and many other projects that we're working on, Rodney had mentioned just this evening, dignitaries from Rwanda will arrive, and we've got a whole agenda that includes many of the assets and the successes in the city that we're going to be highlighting with this particular delegation. So with that, Director Reed Director Richardson and the others, so we're happy to take any questions. Thanks.
So I know we're kind of short on time here, but I definitely want to pass it over to Alderwoman Spencer. I recognize your hand.
Thank you, Director Richardson, and I'll try to make it quick. And I just, I have some comments here. This all sounds this sounds positive, but the reality is, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but this region is hemorrhaging people. We just had our census numbers come out. St. Louis County lost 17,000 people since the 2020 census, and the city lost 20,000. We've lost 7% of our population in the city of St. Louis in the last 3.5 years. And I guess I want to hear some urgency on, this massive population slide. And, it's good to be positive, but the reality is, I think unless we really are cognizant of the issues that we're having between the city and the county, this massive population loss, we're going to continue to slide out of relevancy.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, Alderwoman Spencer, with the sense of urgency and, continuing to move forward on the plan that we have focused on, the Economic Justice Action Plan, specifically focused on the city, is a part of that, creating access to home ownership, supporting small businesses through access to capital, ensuring that we are creating a more healthy environment by the removal of blight in our neighborhoods, and then ultimately being more competitive. And that's really where, as we continue these conversations with the Economic Development Partnership and Greater St. Louis, we have to be focused on that business retention, expansion, and attraction strategically. And I've had conversations with Rodney as well as GSL about the data and the information that they're gathering, and the insights that they're getting from not just companies that are within the city, but also within the region and the country. How are we ensuring that we're being competitive as a city? And really using that data and insight to be strategic about assembling sites, thinking about incentives, whether it's retail incentives or other tax incentives that we can offer to attract those businesses, to attract access to housing, is critically important. And so I concur with your urgency here. And two of our strategic goals within the Economic Justice Action Plan, growing the city's population and expanding the tax base, is something that we're working towards every day. But I concur with your urgency and our need to address this population decline. But I'll pass it over to Director Spencer and then ensure that we give Rodney the chance to respond.
I know we're running out of time, but on my signature line, I have a quote: "Don't talk, act. Don't say, show. Don't promise, prove." This is basically the same presentation we get every 3 months, and there's some positivity around it, but I still don't see how all these meetings are creating actual successes for businesses in St. Louis City. And maybe you're working on it, but we're 7 months into this $1 million contract, and we still don't have the information that we've asked for multiple times. So I don't want to be the only one on the board that has to bring this up every time, but we have the urgency point is really important. We've got to get to work, and we've got to show some actual successes. And if we're not getting actual successes, what are we paying for? So that's what I want to see the next time we get a report back.
Yeah, Rodney, any comments from you or other members of your team?
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing us to share this program that we're working very well together on and collaborating. All of these things take time. When you establish these processes and you work with companies, you're trying to always keep the companies that you have here and then help them grow and then help attract new ones. And so we'll continue to report on the actual activity that's occurring, not only with business retention, expansion, and attraction, but the other initiatives under the collaborative approach of the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership.
So as we have our next update prior to, I think our budget gets approved in June, bring that back before the board. Definitely, as a part of that, the Economic Development Partnership will come back before the board as we go through that process as well, because they, again, play a role in that overall process as we move forward on our plan for fiscal year 2025. Any other, I guess, burning or urgent comments, questions before we move forward in this agenda? Okay. Hearing none, our next regular scheduled board meeting is Thursday, April 18th, 2024 at 8 a.m. I look forward to seeing you all there. And I know SLDC will be reaching out to each of you to confirm your attendance. And then with that, I don't think we have any items for executive session. So I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion.
McBride.
Have a second?
Second, Gilbert.
I have a motion and a second. With that, the meeting is adjourned. I appreciate you all's time today, and we'll continue to highlight the great work, but also move with urgency to address some of the ongoing challenges that we have within the city of St. Louis, and specifically our population and our tax base is critically important to the future of our city. Again, it's something that we're working towards every day. That's the Economic Development Agency that serves the city of St. Louis. So thank you all again for your time, and I look forward to seeing you all next month. Thank you.
Thank you.